Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. As you all may or may not know, the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins yesterday by a final score of 32-27. So, as always, I am here for the staple recap show. You know how this goes. I give you my top takeaways, my top observations, my player of the game. We reflect on my 5 predictions / underdog fantasy player props, all that fun stuff. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, as I just said, the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins in Buffalo. It was in Orchard Park, New York this time by a final score of 32-27. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7 players that were inactive this game. Luckily, there was only true one injury. So there was true one injury related, and that is Reggie Gilliam. Regis Sledger's out. Sledger's out because of a hip injury, hip pointer, I think it was. So obviously he didn't touch the field much to begin with, but last week he played the most snaps, by a bit, by a good margin, that he's played all season. He's really only there for blocking schemes. He's a four-phase special teamer. But Joe Andreessen and Cole Bishop stepped up on special teams for him, so that was really nice to see. And then the other huge injury-related one was wide receiver Amari Cooper. Obviously, he's a key part to this team. Just his third game of the season, he has a wrist injury. It doesn't sound like it's a broken wrist, which would be the rest of the season, unfortunately. It doesn't sound like it's a broken wrist. I mean, he just tweaked it in practice this week. I don't know. And then the third truly injured one was corner Christian Benford. And Kyrie Elam obviously had to step in and start in his place for duty there as CB2 next to Russell Douglas. And I wasn't really impressed with him at all, but we'll get into that later on without spoiling too much and foreshadowing my thoughts there. And then there were 4 true healthy scratches. As usual, center Will Clapp, defensive tackle Zion Logue, which I was really impressed with. Elianko's a practice squad elevation. I'll talk about his future, what's in store for the near and far future down the road when I get to him in my stock report, obviously. And then safety Mike Edwards tomorrow by 4 p.m. Eastern, obviously, is the trade deadline. I'd say if you can flip him for a 5th or 6th round pick and then use that as a trade chip piece, whatever you can call it, if you will, or term it, if you will, then just to get a defensive tackle or pass rusher. And then Curtis Samuel did end up playing. And then another healthy scratch, our last one, 7th out of 7. I know this is a lot for scratch list, but linebacker Nicholas Morrow was injured. It seems that this is really interesting because not only has Joe Andreessen passed on by the depth chart, but it seems that Eddie Ulofoshio getting his first special teams action of the season, getting his first game day jersey of the season. So that's 5 linebackers. You have no veteran experience there. I've seen Matt Miles out at least till the middle of December, if at all. It does sound like he's pushing to come back though a lot. Really excited for that. We can talk about that in the near future, if you will. And then but the 5 linebackers, they don't have past 3 years of experience. Starting weak side linebacker Dorian Williams, 2nd in the league. Starting middle linebacker Terrell Bernard, 3rd year in the league. 2nd year starting, but 3rd year in the league overall. Balin Spector, 3rd year in the league. Joe Andreessen, rookie, UDFA, tryout guy. Eddie Ulofoshio, 5th round pick, rookie, special teams only guy. So they have no experience on the game day actives. Sorry about that. Got distracted for a minute. On the game day actives list for yesterday, which is really, really interesting. Well, I'll talk about Brandon Bean's free agent class later, but it's not looking good. I'll talk about later on in my big picture takeaways, observations for going forward and now in the future. Stock up. I'm going to say QB Josh Allen was a huge stock up for me personally. It should be for everyone personally, I think. His stats were 25 of 39, 64%, which this season he's really settled in nicely around low 70% completion percentage, at worst high 60%. This is around league average, 63 to 65, 66%. Pushing it up there is around league average. But he should have been at least 29 of 39, and he should have been low 70s percentage because he had 3 or 4, even 5, at least 4 that I counted of clear drops. So that's good, but 235 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, which it bounced right off Keon Coleman's hands. he would have been dancing in the end zone if he just caught it and walked forward 3 yards. So Josh Allen has 2 interceptions on the year now, and neither of them are on him. Excuse me. I got tongue-tied there. Neither of them are on him. There you go. Neither of them are on him. Last week, Amari Cooper slept. And then this week, it bounced right off Keenan Coleman's hands and tipped up interception by Jalen Ramsey. And he had two rushes for 7 yards. I would love to see Josh Allen pushing 8, 9, maybe even 10 rushing attempts, especially on first down, because in my opinion, first downs are a perfect down to do design QB runs. Because if you get for 5 or 6 yards, that's great. Second and medium, second and short. If you don't get much, fine. You have 2 more downs to work with. You still have second or third down. So I don't see any cons to running a design QB run on first down. Now, you don't run design QB run in 3rd and 3. Like I thought Joe Brady's first half play calling was disastrous, pretty garbage. And then it was okay in the second half. I don't think at any point it was really like phenomenal or overly creative. Maybe in the 4th quarter when they had to have it score. But yeah. So, one, I think they should do more design QB runs with Josh Allen, especially on first down. And 2, have more rushes overall in the playbook for him than just 2 rushes that compute to 7 yards. And then I thought a couple of our running back, not James Cook, I thought a couple of our backup reserve running backs were really, really good. Ray Davis, he had 4 carries for 20 yards. That's exactly 5 yards per carry. He runs more physical than James Cook, and he runs with more conviction than conviction than James Cook. Weird word to say. More conviction than James Cook, and much more physical. I'm not saying James Cook is some bum, but he doesn't have the physicality to his game than Ray Davis does, and Ray Davis can pass protect pretty well. Like there was one where like it was embarrassing. James Cook got embarrassed on a pass pro rep, and Josh Allen just had to throw it out of bounds and dirt it because like if you saw the play, like James Cook got ragdolled. Like he got absolutely like hammered in pass pro. And his frame doesn't suggest he's a pass pro back. But what I really liked is Ray Davis, 2 catches, 70-yard, and 1 touchdown. I think it was a slip screen, maybe slightly more in the intermediate of the field. Either way, huge monster run after catch run. And he looked behind him like no one's gonna catch me, so I'm gonna go. And it was great blocking, sealed off the edge. I think it was Mac Hollins who sealed off the edge for him. So it was really, really great to see. I love that over the last couple weeks, especially this week, obviously, Ray Davis is getting carries as soon as the first quarter, as early as the second quarter, first half at the very least, at minimum. Because before the James Cook in the lineup, he was just used as a garbage time running back in only late game situations, whether they're up or down either way. But now he's working in with James Cook. And James Cook is a 3-down back in this league, which I thought I would never say based on his frame. But Ray Davis deserves opportunities. He still didn't play enough snaps, but still, he could use even more snaps even. And obviously, the run after catch ability was awesome. And then running back Ty Johnson, he just seems to be a random, steady RB3. They still use him in some cases over Ray Davis. I would not like to see that at all, but he's a core special teamer he's become a core 4-phase special teamer for this team, which if you don't know is kickoff, punt, kick coverage, punt coverage, all the 4 main stages, special teams. And Ty Johnson's 3 carries for 23 yards. That's a really good average. I don't know off the top of my head, but I could calculate it now, but it doesn't really matter because Ray Davis is Ty Johnson is RB3, excuse me. So he's kind of a combination of James Cook and Ray Davis, right? Like he's as physical as Ray Davis, but he's not as swift and quick and light on his feet as James Cook. But he can basically do everything. He's kind of a mini like jack of all trades, if you will, because he plays special teams at high level. He can be a kick returner and punt returner at a pretty decent to high level as well. But mostly he runs off tackle, he runs inside zone, outside zone. Even last year, in some rare instances, he lined up as a pseudo, like hybrid, technically tight end on the field for a few blocking schemes. So he just does whatever's needed. He does the dirty work in pass pro. I thought he was just a pass pro back, but the Bills clearly trust him to give him 3 carries. And it randomly, he has like 2 rushing touchdowns this year and 2 receiving touchdowns. So yeah, fun fact, 10 different players have scored a touchdown for the Bills this year, at least 1 touchdown. That's the 3 receiving touchdown. That's the 3 running backs, James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, the 3 tight ends, Quentin Morris got in there for his first target yesterday. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, obviously. And then our 4 receivers, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper, and Matt Collins. Curtis Samuel, he's just nothing. But those couple running backs behind James Cook did really good, and I was very impressed. And then a couple, handful of pass catchers here. Wide receiver Khalil Shakir. He had 6 catches for 50 yards. Obviously, it's not as good as his 9 catches for 107 yards last week. He's never going to be a red zone target. I've said this before. Khalil Shakir's speed is underrated, but he's not going to wow you as a burner. He's not going to wow you as a physicality, but he blocks his butt off. He blocks his you-know-what off all the time. And he is the only one that can even, execute screens remotely well on this offense. They don't use James Cook in it, even though they should. They've tried it with Donkey and Dawson Knox. The tight end screens don't work. Curtis Samuel's been a dud. That definitely does not work. Ray Davis, okay, fine, but he's RB2/3, depending on what week you have Ty Johnson in there. So Khalil Shakir, his run after catch ability is a monster. The best way I can describe him is shift. He puts defenders in spin cycles so much. He jukes out defenders so much. He's not the smallest guy in the world, but he's not the biggest guy in the world either, right? He's 6 foot. I think he's like 205, 210, somewhere in there. But he does everything you want, all the dirty work. The only thing is, I wish he was more of a red zone target, but his frame doesn't really suggest that. But we have Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper for that. But Khalil Shakir, I honestly, he's my favorite pass catcher on the team this year. I thought Dalton Kincaid would be, but Khalil Shakir is by far outproducing him. And then another wide receiver, it kind of annoys me, and then at the same time, it doesn't how much Matt Collins has to play. Obviously, he got a huge uptick in snaps because of Amari Cooper being out, but Matt Collins had 5 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown. This is so random. Like I said, Ty Johnson has 4 total touchdowns on the year, 2 rushing and 2 receiving, respectively. Matt Collins has 4 total receiving touchdowns. Yes, if you didn't hear that right, 4. 4 total. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 total receiving touchdowns this year. He's a hell of a blocker. He's a hell of a special teamer. It's evidenced by that forced muff punt he had last week against the Seahawks. The return was Laviska Shenault, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it is. I do recall correctly. It's Laviska Shenault. But I just, when Amari Cooper comes back, I don't really want to see him on the field. But again, he is a red zone monster. And he's just a Trent Sherfield plus. He's a much better version of Trent Sherfield, in my opinion. Trent Sherfield was supposed to be this huge special team or sneakily good target in the red zone, and he was really never a good special teamer last year. He was fine, but he was never decent at best, I'd say. At his high point. Decent at best, I'd say. And then Matt Collins just so much better of a special teamer and blocker than him. So, yeah. I don't see any difference between Matt Collins and, what? We brought in Matt Collins for 1 year, $5 million, and the Jaguars paid Gabe Davidson, AAV, average annual value, AAV, average salary per year of $13 million. $8 million difference. I don't really see a downgrade. It's not an upgrade, but it's sure as hell not this downgrade. It's basically the same. So Matt Collins kind of annoys me how much he gets on the field, but if he's producing in the red zone as a monster red zone target, literally and figuratively, then he's producing. And then tight end Quentin Morris. What about this? 4 catches, tight end Quentin Morris. What about this? 1 catch, 2 yards, and a touchdown. He's usually a core 4-face special teamer. He's usually only in there for blocking schemes, if at all. They rarely go 3 tight ends. Hell, they rarely go even 2 tight ends on the field at the same time. But this wasn't, excuse me, let me start over. This wasn't only Quentin Morris's first catch of the year. It was his first downright freaking target of the year. 0 targets before. Not even 0 catches, 0 targets. And he catches his first target, which goes for 2 yards and a touchdown. He's showing up in some clutch moments. He'll have a random touchdown or 2 per year. He's a guy that will have his stat line could be 10 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Just 20% of those receptions are touchdowns because 2 of 10. 20% of those, 10 receptions and 2 touchdowns. He just does the dirty work with blocking, and he'll show up from time to time and surprise you, oh, there's Quentin Morris. And then his fellow tight end Dawson Knox wasn't really involved, but tight end Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches for 32 yards. He hasn't really had that blow up game. There were a couple catches where he dropped in this game. I think the second drop wasn't really a drop because it wasn't a garbage throw from Josh Allen, but it was a really low throw from Josh Allen. Josh Allen only had 1 or 2 of those in the day, if at all, maybe 1. That was it. But Donkey for sure could have caught the first one. Like, there were a lot of drops in this game. Like, even Khalil Shakir dropped, and he doesn't drop anything. He literally got hands of steel. I guess that's how it will go when when you have Eric Moulds as your personal mentor and personal trainer in the offseason. Like that's freaking awesome. I just gotta say. Even Dalton Kincaid dropped one. So that was kind of disappointing. And then 2 wide open drop touchdowns. The first one was egregious. Obviously, already talked about Keon Coleman that ended up in the interception. The second one was really bad too because James Cook has had very questionable hands in his 3rd year in Buffalo over his career with the Bills and NFL career overall because obviously that's the only team he's been on. Ray Davis has more consistent hands than him in just half a year as a rookie. James Cook, like, he has all the promise to be a receiving back, the best receiving back in the league very soon, in the very near future. But I give that to Elvin Kamara, personally, in terms of best receiving back in the league, just because James Cook's hands are very questionable. He would have caught it at the 20-yard line. And once James Cook gets around the edge, like, ain't no one beating James Cook in a foot race to the end zone. So that was a wide open walk-in touchdown if he could have caught that. So really, Josh Allen should have had like 5 passing touchdowns instead of 3, and we should have won the game like 44-27 instead of 30-27 only. So that really disappointed me. Points take off the board because of that. I don't think I said this in the beginning, but my one word, sorry, I skipped over it. As I always like to describe with one word, win or loss, this game was exhausting. There were so many ups and downs, mostly downs until the 4th. And really, the 3rd quarter was the only remotely good quarter. I thought Joe Brees' play calling was kind of garbage in the first half. Second half, maybe a little better, really bland, not creative at all. So this was exhausting. This was quite a journey of a game. Like, this is by far the closest Tua and the Dolphins have ever played the Bills. Like, Tua was 25 of 28, 89%. Like, no pressure on him at all. As you'll see in my stat report on the defensive side, the only sack of the game was Greg Rousseau. Speaking of that defensive side, let's go to Greg Rousseau right now. He had 7 tackles, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 QB. I've been saying this whole season, I'm fearful that the Bills will overpay Greg Rousseau. I never said they shouldn't pay him at all and extend him to keep him in Buffalo for the next handful of years, next 5 or 6 years, give or take. But I said I'm fearful that they'll overpay him. I'm still fearful that bit, guys. I'm still a little bit fearful, and that can be addressed in the coming couple off seasons, obviously, especially this one now, heading in after his 4th year, in between the 5th year option next year, give or take 5 or 6 more years under contract. If we sign that big lucrative extension, but he was really good. He was the only sack of the day, and that honestly a detriment. Like, we need to make a move at the trade deadline tomorrow. But I'll talk about that in my big picture takeaways. Defensive. I'm going to be honest. Like, this is a surprising name, and if you're a casual fan and not a diehard Bills fan, you're going to be like, Aiden, who the hell is this? But defensive tackle Elianku. He had 2 tackles, and both tackles were right at the line of scrimmage, and they both came at key moments. They both came, I believe, on like 3rd and 1s or 3rd and 2s, and they both forced punts. I'm staking my claim right now. Elianku is by far our 3rd best defensive tackle. Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones have been disappointing, but they're still the 2 starters. Obviously, Dwayne Carter's an IR, and he was becoming a legit rotational piece. But unfortunately, he broke his wrist, whatever. I don't even know if he comes back this season. He likely will, but who knows in the NFL with these recovery timelines and stuff. And Austin Johnson barely plays as it is, like 26% of decent defensive snaps this week against the Dolphins, excuse me. Elianku's in the practice squad. He's the 3rd best defensive tackle by far. It's not even a debate. Like, and then Zion Logue is a healthy scratch. Like, he's not even a thought in my mind. Personally, I would cut him and then sign Elianku permanently from the practice squad to the active roster. I think he's such a great run defender. He's not going to give you anything. Like, he's a total 0 in the pass rush department. But that's why Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones have to step up, and they've been highly disappointing, especially Ed Oliver. Coming off of last year, just okay isn't good enough. Okay is disappointing. So, but Elianku, like, He's our third best defensive tackle by far, not even a debate. And then some secondary players, cornerback Taron Johnson had 4 tackles, 1 fumble recovery. Honestly, you could say linebacker Terrell Bernard was back, but he was nowhere close to 100% because he was giving up. He had a few lapses in coverage. Obviously Dorian Williams is expected, but Terrell Bernard was giving up some stuff on coverage like he never, rarely, never gives up. And I don't think he was anywhere close to 100%. I think they forced him back a game or two too early. I would have had him like maybe even sit out next week against the Colts and then reassess at the bye and have him definitely ready for the Chiefs game. That will give you 3 or 4 more weeks, but I don't know. And then corner Taron Johnson, he was back. He got dinged up, and that was when Cam Lewis had to come in for like 2 or 3 plays there at slot corner. But Taron Johnson, like, he is the heart and soul of this defense. Like, he's the vet of this secondary now, and like, he's not even that old. He's like 28 years old. So, but he just is awesome. He can buzz down a linebacker. He can play like a hybrid safety role for you. He can play a slot corner for you. He's so physical. His ball skills are very underrated. For my money, he's the best slot corner in the league, especially this year because Trent McDuffie of the Chiefs is playing much more outside corner now this year. Mike Hilton and the Bengals has had a pretty steep drop-off. You could talk about Desmond King. I don't think he's on the team right now, though. A team at all right now, though. So, yeah, my money's in Taron Johnson, best slot corner in the league. I think he could arguably first team All Pro. Devon Witherspoon of the Seahawks is having a pretty terrible year. So, yeah. And then punt returner Brandon Codrington was awesome. He only got 1 punt for 29 yards, but first of all, it was a horrible punt by Jake Bailey, just horrible. It hit midfield, and then it checked up, and it was a high bounce. Brandon Codrington got it off the high bounce. He got us all the way to Miami's 38-yard line. I think it was even 37-yard line, somewhere around there. And obviously, I think we only got a field goal off of that, which was kind of disappointing with such good field position. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments below. I got to check the game tape back. But yeah, Brandon Codrington's been awesome as a returner this year. For the last few years, whether it was Isaiah McKenzie as a returner, he had very questionable hands. He muffed a lot of punts, unfortunately. We were messing around with Ty Johnson early this season, but Brandon Codrington is our guy for the next handful of years as a returner, I feel like. So that's really, really good. Kicker Tyler Bass, man, like he was 1 of 2 in extra points. He probably should have and very well could have been 0 of 2 in extra points, but it's 3 of 3 field goals. 1 was pretty much a chip shot. 1 was 40 yards that he made. And then, like, obviously very emotional for him. He makes history, like longest kick in franchise history in the longest kick, obviously the longest kick in Buffalo Bills and Bills franchise history, but the longest kick in NFL history is 66 yards by Justin Tucker in 2022, 2 years ago. It was now, I think. Yeah, 2022. That would be 2 years ago. Duh. But it was really cool to see Tyler Bass overcome adversity. They signed Lucas Haversack to the practice squad, and then they released him after a couple of weeks because they signed Deion Kane to the practice squad. And like Tyler Bass is all the way back. What a redemption arc for him over the last this whole season, basically, but especially over the last month or so. Really impressive stuff. The 61-yarder, when he lined up, I said, we're going to overtime. There's no way in hell he makes this. And then he made it with ease. That would have been good from damn near, that would have been good from damn near 65, 66 yards because holy God, hell, that leg on that boy. Whew. The distance and leg power has never been an issue for Tyler Bass. Accuracy has always been an issue for him, especially this year. He's got a boom of a leg, arguably the strongest leg in the league for a kicker. I think my money is he does. He can kick the hell out of the ball, but accuracy has been a big issue for him, especially this year. So, what a redemption arc, though, 61-yarder to really effectively win the game. And then the entire offensive line was absolutely incredible. I don't get out of here with those 2 holding calls. The one on Deion Dawkins was so ticky-tack. He had the guy in the chest. He was regularly blocking him. And then the second one, the play right after by holding on right guard Osiris Torrance was just the most egregious thing I have ever seen. And I'm not afraid to call officials. You guys know me by now. If you don't, you better get to know me that I'm not afraid to call it officials. Officiating was horrible in this game. The second one by Osiris Torrance was really egregious. It was worse than the Deion Dawkins one as a call, per se. Specifically, sorry. And that one was pretty bad as it was. And then the first one early in the game, very early in the first quarter, Raheem Mostert lowers his helmet on Taylor Rapp. Taylor Rapp's just trying to wrap him up. No pun intended. But Taylor Rapp is just trying to bring him to the ground, wrap him up, and Raheem Mostert, lowers his head like that and initiates it, and they call helmet to helmet unnecessary roughness on Taylor Rapp. Give me a break, man. We had 4 penalties this game. We should have only had 1. The 2 holding calls were BS. The quote unquote helmet to helmet by Taylor Rapp was beyond BS, egregious. And then Von Miller's offside. So again, we should have had only 1 penalty instead of 4. It's very rare for a whole Bills game to go by, though, and not as many penalties. They're like always lurking around double digits or damn near close to it, unfortunately. So yeah, but the penalties were way down this game, which was awesome. And then a few of them we got screwed by, but I was really impressed. I'm telling you, like, 3rd team All-Pro, Spencer Brown caliber season. I'll just leave it at that. And then mixed. These are guys that was kind of mixed on. Running back James Cook. I don't think he should. I don't think he got near the volume he should. Like I said, I want James Cook to get 15 to 20, 21, 22 touches somewhere on there between rushing and receiving combined. And he only got 10 carries for 44 yards, kind of ho-hum. But 5 catches, 25 yards. Let's be honest. Like I said, he should have had 6 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. Because when he reaches that edge, he's gone. And you can't have very questionable hands, Jimbo. So, gotta clean that up. And then linebacker Dorian Williams, again, 12 tackles. He missed a tackle or 2, but it's going to happen when he flies around the field, hair on fire style player. He's still a liability in coverage. There was only 1 decent at best pass coverage rep that I saw. But other than that, he was a liability in coverage. He's going to have to be taken on the field in those obvious passing downs, like 3rd and 4th down situations if needed, like buzz down Cam Lewis, buzz down Taron Johnson, buzz down Jamarcus Ingram. So they're all capable of being pseudo hybrid linebackers at those buzz downs in the secondary, safety, or corner, respectively. Sorry, I kind of lost my spot here. I'm back. And then also last mix was corner Rasul Douglas. 3 tackles, 1 pass deflection. While we're on the topic of secondary players, this brings me to a huge stock down. For some reason, people said after this game, like even like fellow podcasters and other podcasters that I respect and listen to, no shot at them, but they said Kyrie Elam played really well. I respectfully totally disagree with that. He's a huge stock down for me. Kyrie Elam had 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 fumble recovery. Taron Johnson forced the fumble. Kyrie Elam recovered it. That's great. But he got burnt by Tyreek Hill many times. He was in phase stride for stride with him. The first one, he only got his hands on the ball, but like he gave up the touchdown to Jalen Waddle. Him in coverage solo. I think it was with another guy, but mostly him. And then he gave up 4 catches for 80 yards for Tyreek Hill. He impressed me with his tackling, but he's really brutal. He was really brutal in coverage yesterday, guys. So I wasn't thinking this personally, but there were rumblings out there that, well, Christian Benford's out. If Kyrie Elam plays good, if puts good tape on display and blah, 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 all that, then he could be a trade piece for you by tomorrow's deadline at 4 p.m. Eastern, obviously, like I've been saying. Leading up to the trade deadline. But yeah, I never thought that because I think the corner duo next year could be Christian Benford and Kyrie Elam, or maybe sneakily now, since Elam was terrible yesterday, in my opinion, personal humble opinion, of course, Jamarcus Ingram and Christian Benford could be a sneaky duo. So, but I thought Kyrie Elam was pretty woeful, if that's even a word. Run defense was pretty bad too. This is what the Bills would do. Taron Johnson literally said after the game, "Oh yeah, we give them light boxes. We let them." I don't know the exact quote, but he basically said, "Oh yeah, we let teams run on us. Like we invite them to run." The Bills defense is built to prevent big plays and coverage busts over the top, over the middle, over the top specifically. They'll give you light boxes to run the ball. Okay. They'll let you get the ball to your hands quick, and they'll make you miss in space, which credit to the Dolphins and every other team that has played the Bills, win or loss. They've forced many missed tackles on the Bills defense, but they'll give you light boxes. They'll let you get the ball out quick and make you miss, which they have. But what they won't do is they're built to prevent coverage busts over the top. They're built to prevent huge, big downfield shots over the top. And Dolphins, they didn't really prevent that yesterday because Kyrie Lim gave up a lot of those to Tyreek Hill. All 4 catches were like coverage busts by him and the whole defense, respectfully. So, yeah. Big Slice of the Game award. No one really yes, that's the big slice. He had a monster day. But I'm going to give it to Ray Davis just because of the run after catch and wiggle he showed up. That's weird. The run after catch he displayed and showed off after that catch, it was really impressive. And now he's getting more and more opportunities earlier in the game as well. So Ray Davis, you are the official Around the Slice Big Slice of the Game award winner. Burnt Slice of the Game, I'm going to have none. I had my quabbles. That doesn't make sense. I had my qualms and issues with Dorian Williams and coverage, but again, he wasn't downright awful. He's a very physical tackler, so there was no Burnt Slice of the Game award, which the last 2 weeks there hasn't been. Reflecting on 5 game predictions from my preview last Friday, obviously 3 days ago now, Friday, November 1st for this game, I said give me Josh Allen over 275.5 total yards between passing and rushing combined, and he only had 235. He didn't really come close. But if Keon caught that touchdown and James Cook didn't drop that would-be 20-yard walk-in touchdown around the edge, then he would have gotten much closer. So that didn't happen, obviously. And then Khalil Shakir over 4.5 receptions. That absolutely happened. He had 6 receptions, so he beat this by 1 reception, which he needed to, because I thought they give him a few screens and let him work after the catch because he's their screen guy moving forward. No one else even remotely comes close to developing that part of the field and executing that at a high level at all. So that happened. So we're 1 of 2. Tua Tagovailoa under 249.5 passing yards down. He had 231, so this was getting kind of dicey. He was very efficient in throwing the ball downfield and getting it quick to Devon Achane and other guys in space and motion and stuff. So this happened. They held him under 249.5, so we're 2 of 3. We're rolling now. Devon Achane over 4.5 receptions. He crushed this. He had 8 receptions. The Dolphins made this into a space game, and the Bills couldn't contain Devon Achane. I feel like he forced a million missed tackles on the Bills defense. Can't be having that. So now we are 3 of 4. And then last one, I think I got this wrong. Bills defense gets 2 interceptions on Tua. There weren't even any drop interceptions. There were barely any pass breakups, if any. The Bills, again, he only had 3 incompletions, so they never got their hands on the ball. So that didn't happen. So we are 3 of 5 on predictions. That's 60%. That's by far my best hit rate of the season thus far. And again, it'll be fun to look back on these. And then this doesn't count as an official prediction, but I predicted the Bills to win the game 34-13 by 3 scores just because every time they play the Dolphins, they pound the Dolphins. But credit to the Dolphins and Tua. This is by far the best they've played against the Bills, by far in Tua's entire career. Still winless against them, but still. He's 10-1 against the rest of the AFC East. So, meaning the Jets and Patriots. In 0 of 5, 6, 0 of whatever against the Bills. But I predicted them to win 34-13, and they won 30-27. I never really care about that, but yeah. Final thoughts / questions. Brandon Beane's free agency class looks, I'm going to say it brutally honest, it looks miserable. Curtis Samuel, sizable contract, total dud. Mike Edwards, even though I predicted it, he's been a total dud. Nicholas Morrow, he's now at the point where he's a healthy scratch. MVS, he was cut to make room for Amari Cooper. He did nothing before that. And now he's in the Saints, and they're miserable. So, free agency class is looking very rough. And a trade for a defensive tackle by tomorrow by 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm telling you right now, we do not have the size up front. A trade for a defensive tackle is a must. And by size, I don't mean jokingly oh, that's just an expression. I don't mean that figuratively. I mean literal size. Ed Oliver is a severely, severely undersized defensive tackle. Our biggest defensive tackle by far in terms of just pure size is Elianku, and he's on the practice squad. And Austin Johnson is undersized as well. And he's kind of a tweener between edge and defensive tackle. So we need a true nose tackle, blob in the middle guy that can just sit there and eat up blocks. Now, there's not a Vita Vea. That's hard to say. There's not a Vita Vea of the Buccaneers knocking down your door and say, "Well, you sign me or trade for me." Yeah, that's not going to happen. A 350-pound guy or a Tavondre Sweat or Jeffrey Simmons. That's not going to happen. But can we get like Dalvin Tomlinson and or Shelby Harris from the Browns? Like one of those two would be outstanding as big blobs in the middle. Like we need a nose tackle type guy that can just eat up double teams, eat up blocks, and as soon as the opposing running back runs into him, bam, by force he's going down. So yeah. Takeaways from offensive snap counts. I only got a couple here. I always like to look at the snap counts on offensive and defensive side, respectively, just to get more context. Matt Collins saw by far the biggest uptick in snaps. Like Keon snaps were always the same. Everyone's snaps was the same, but Matt Collins got a huge uptick. He played 68% of snaps. I assume when Cooper comes back in 1 or 2 weeks, let's hope that he has a wrist injury. What's up with these wrist injuries, by the way? Casey Toole got a knee injury, but Keon Coleman, what a I'm not sure now, but I won't. But what a BS hit from Jordan Poyer. Like it was for sure helmet time. Like that would have been a penalty 20 years ago, back in the physical football days. Like yes, the NFL is really soft these days, but like Jesus, man, that was brutal. He got a wrist injury, and I swear to God, if he fractures his wrist and is out for this rest of the season at midseason mark already because of Jordan Poyer, I'm gonna be pissed. Like I'm gonna say it right now. But yeah, and then DeJuan Smoot got a wrist injury, even maybe trade for a pass rusher like Zadarius Smith. I don't know. Some form of D lineman, defensive tackle, defensive end, respectively. Probably more defensive tackle, but do something in the D line, Brandon Bean over there. So 68% of snaps for Matt Collins. And then Curtis Samuel played 26% of snaps. Just I have nothing to say about that. Total nothing burger guy. This puzzles me. And then Ray Davis needs to play more than just 14% of snaps. Since his breakout game, every single opportunity he's gotten, he's been so physical. He demonstrates elite contact balance. It's just awesome to see. And only 14% of snaps is criminal. I would eat into James Cook touches even more and stop screwing around with Ty Johnson, even though he's a pretty random okay player. Only have him in there on certain blocking schemes and what have you, but come on, man. He can play. Ray Davis can play over Ty Johnson. And then a couple last takeaways from the defensive snap counts. AJ Epineza playing only 39% of snaps makes 0 sense. Like him and DeJuan Smoot had, I think, identical. Like they both played 39% of defensive snaps, and Von Miller right around there too. Like AJ Epineza should play the most out of those three. Then Von Miller, then DeJuan Smoot. AJ Epineza 39%. Come on, man. That should be 60, 65% at minimum. And that just speaks to, once again, trade for a D lineman or pass rusher. I want to see Javon Solomon just personally get more, like Javon Solomon personally get more than just 3% of snaps. Casey Tuhill did come back to the game after his knee injury, so obviously it's not serious at all. But 3% of snaps, he's playing a huge chunk of special team snaps. But 3% of defensive snaps in just garbage time, like he has flashed a couple times. I want to see even more of those flashes. So no detriment to him. It's not his fault. They just don't play him. Anyway, I know that was a jam-packed episode, but I really had to get a lot off of my chest in a very positive light. Again, the game was exhausting. Quite a journey, but in the end, we got the win 30-27. We're now 7-2, and we should be able to beat the Colts and then the bye, and going into the Chiefs week 11, right before the bye, then 49ers. 8-2 going into the Chiefs. I want to announce something quick here. I have a very special week on here. Not special, but like very jam-packed, eventful week on here and Around the Slice, whether than YouTube or audio platform, whatever you're potting on. On Wednesday, so today's Monday, November 4th. On Wednesday, November 6th, I will be releasing my mid-season review for the Buffalo Bills, just like I did last year around this time, where we go over all the positions, most disappointing players, most surprising players, team MVPs, grading position groups. That will be really fun. So wait for that on Wednesday, November 6th, and then back to the regularly scheduled programming on Friday, November 8th for the Bills Colts game preview show. So this is the first of 3 shows this week. It's going to be really eventful. Quick rundown again. Today, obviously, was the recap show for Bills Dolphins. Wednesday, November 6th will be our midseason review show. And then Friday, November 8th will be the regular Bills Colts preview show. Anyways, guys, please, if you would like, follow me on Twitter personally at A13. Follow the show on Twitter for updates and stuff like that at Around Slice. You can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And please, 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 I'm on the road to 50 subscribers. Help me get to the big 5-0. Let's say by the end of the season. So by the end of the season, let's get to the big 5-0, 50 subscribers. I know you guys can do it. Anyway, thank you for supporting as always. I really enjoyed today's episode. I hope you did as well. I will see you Wednesday for the much anticipated mid-season review show. I hope you're looking forward to that. I'm very much looking forward to it personally. See you later.